Ladies and gentlemen, the pleb is back. In this report, Kamala Harris has reached new desperation levels as she is not connecting with male voters and is now begging Joe Rogan to come on his podcast. You won't want to miss tonight's story. Stick around. Before we start this report, please smash the subscribe button because I am going to tell you the news that the mainstream media won't. Well, folks, we knew this was going to happen. Kamala Harris's campaign is an absolute freefall, and now they are reaching absolutely new levels of desperation. Trump is now surging on the Polymarket odds. He currently has his biggest lead to date against crazy Kamala Harris. And these odds are before Trump has even appeared on the Joe Rogan podcast, something he confirmed this week. Watch.
You're doing a lot of podcasts recently. One that I would love to see you on is, I think Joe Rogan has to have you on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Would you do that?
Oh, sure I would.
I think Joe, like, besides us, Joe's
I think
obviously-
I'm doing it, actually.
Yeah?
Ooh. Yeah,
So you are going to do Joe Rogan?
Yeah, I am.
Joe Rogan's the best in the game for sure. And I think, you know,
Did Joe become so well known because of the UFC? And he does a great job with that, right? What was it that made Joe the best?
During COVID, you know, he was very outspoken on all the corruption going on during COVID. And I think that's personally when I started watching him a lot too. And just, he's an honest guy too, right?
He is.
So I think
Good guy.
good guy. And I think you guys together would just
And he's got a good voice. That's important.
yeah.
Now, with Kamala Harris being absolutely unpopular with men and completely tanking in the polls, the Democrats have a new strategy. According to this article here from Reuters today, Kamala Harris could be joining Joe Rogan on his podcast, which to me is an absolute sign of desperation. And in an absolute twist of irony, after the mainstream media absolutely destroyed Joe Rogan during the pandemic and tried to paint him as a monster, well, apparently the mainstream media are on board with Kamala appearing on his show.
Let's talk about his opponent, Vice President Kamala Harris, what she's been up to, what she's about to do, which is a sit-down interview with Bret Baier on Fox News Channel. There's also some discussion we're hearing that she may do the Joe Rogan podcast, the most popular podcast in the country.
But if she does Joe Rogan, if she does Joe Rogan, that's an exact, she's aiming right at young men, right, which is a constituency that polls show that not just her, but the Democratic Party is getting a little shaky on, and those men are more interested, seem interested in Donald Trump. And so basically she and the campaign are trying to say, we're not scared to go in front of what folks might think is unfriendly waters or enemy territory and have the same conversation, right?
Meanwhile,
They're so full of it. They're so full of it. The only reason she wants to do his show is because she's tanking with male supporters, not because she's willing to walk into the fire in a podcast with Joe Rogan. They are so disingenuous.
Let's contrast that with Donald Trump, who hasn't sat for any sort of interview of any consequence, of any sort of, aggressive questioning in months.
And I think that what they're doing with these media outlets where they're going to Joe Rogan and Fox, like, there are people who listen to Joe Rogan who will have never heard Harris speak. Right? They'll have never heard an interview with her because where would they have heard it? And so I do think there's this very smart tact where they are trying to puncture these media silos to get her out there because they feel that she is being misrepresented.
Wow. It's amazing how they go from Joe Rogan, the conspiracy theorist, to Joe Rogan, the #1 podcast in the world. It's hilarious how they shift the narrative when it's going to benefit them. But the real reason that Kamala Harris is not connecting with male voters is because her base is like this. We do not relate to whatever the hell this is.
If I were to ask Vice President Harris a question, I think I would ask her, how soon do you think we can get the Equality Act passed?
How about Donald Trump?
I would ask him, do you see me as a human?
Look how the mainstream media lady is just eating this up. This absolute nonsense. Look at her.
I'm sorry.
That's sad. That's sad. They are such absolute drama queens on the left, are they not? But now let's move things over to Joe Rogan. And the reason I want Kamala to do his show is because Joe Rogan doesn't respect Kamala. A couple of weeks ago on his podcast, he accused Kamala Harris of being a puppet.
I forgot.
Let me tell you, before I say anything, I just want to say, whoever's helping her, whoever's coaching her, whoever's the puppet master running the strings, you did a fucking amazing job.
Whoever the puppet master is pulling the strings, you're doing an amazing job. Keep in mind, this was like a couple of days after the debate, 1 or 2 days. So it was still fresh. Kamala was surging.
On the strings.
Yeah.
You did a fucking amazing job.
She did a great job.
They did an amazing job from the moment Biden drops out, forcing Biden to drop out. Right, whatever they're doing, whoever's writing those speeches, getting her to deliver them, coaching her, she's nailing it. She nailed that one speech. She's like, "Say it to my face."
Oh yeah,
everybody's cheering.
Yeah, she nailed it, dude.
So yes, Joe Rogan called Kamala Harris a puppet and said that whoever is pulling her strings was doing a good job. Now keep in mind, this was right after the debate. Now we'll fast forward things to a couple of weeks later, and Joe Rogan seems to have a wake-up call and absolutely blast Kamala.
It all bothers me, the fragility of the human mind. You know, that so everybody forever was like, Kamala Harris is the worst vice president. She's the least popular vice president of all time. And then in a moment in time, all of a sudden she's our solution. She's our hero. Everybody's with her. All these social media posts about her. Try Googling a negative story on her. You won't find one.
So,
ta-da!
Okay, you've got.
Do you think they have her medicated? Because there was a guy that was speculating that some of the things that she says, the way she's sort of disconnected sometimes, and
I don't know
she goes
what,
on these rambles, that it's
I don't
indicative of certain anti-anxiety medication. I do not know if this is true. See if you can find that, because really that shouldn't say that about our future president.
Yeah,
she's going to win.
No, she's not.
She can win.
She absolutely can win. I do not think she's going to win, because the more she talks, like in 2020, how bad do you have to be that you can't even make Iowa? She couldn't even compete with the mayor of South Bend.
I feel like we are in this very bizarre time where people are giving in to the bullshit in a way that I never suspected people would before. And this is one, they just want no Trump, no matter what, and they're willing to gaslight themselves to think that. And by the way, I think Hillary could win. If Hillary jumped back in.
I've been saying that for months.
If Hillary jumped back in, I think the problem was also the money. Because there was it was like $250 million in the campaign fund that has if it only works if she's on the ticket.
Right.
So that's part of the problem. But I feel like Hillary could win. She won the popular vote in 2020.
I've been saying this for a year in different shows, and she would have won in pretty.
Michelle Obama could win too.
No, I don't
if
think
she wanted to do it. You don't think so?
I don't. I think that's kind of this. You sound like your parents. I think it's this boomer idea. She doesn't want it.
I'm not saying that she would be awesome at it. But I think
anyone can win of either party.
Yes.
Whoever the nominee is. Like even Chris Christie could have won if he's the Republican nominee. It's possible.
I would have thought that Trump getting shot would that's it. Election's over. But it's like they memory hold that so quick.
You would have thought Trump getting shot would have had 8 years of corporate journalists talking about hate speech causing violence to be like, let's take a step back. And that went for what, a week?
They did take a step back for a little bit.
For a week.
And then they went right back at him.
You want to talk about this memory holding?
Yeah.
With the insanity of who's that? That was Elon who put up, like, if you Google President Donald, it says President Donald Reagan.
No, I tried it.
What happened?
Maybe they fixed it. It said President Donald Trump.
Okay. Well, he had a screenshot, so I'm sure he didn't Photoshop
no.
that.
I mean, it's based on a lot of things, right? Like what people are searching for. I would imagine that the assassination attempt on Trump would be the first one that you would see.
Yeah.
Assassination attempt on President maybe Trump, because that's the most recent.
Yes.
But it's not.
And most newsworthy.
But it does show it. You just have to type it all in, which is interesting, because that little difference between what you can find and what you get presented immediately has a huge shift in the way people access information. And this is Robert Epstein's work.
The Creepy Line, the documentary, everyone should watch it.
Yeah, and this thing is very real. And what it is like if you try to Google certain negative stories, like negative stories on people, it will overwhelm you with positive stories. It'll take a long time before you get to the negative stories.
Yeah, how he explained it is here's how they can tip the scale.
Yeah.
If I Google Hillary Clinton, and I have it so Google gives fairly positive stories about Hillary as the first 10 results, you're not going to go to the second page. If I Google Donald Trump and Google gives you 7 negative stories, it's going to move the needle a little bit toward her
Quite
against
a bit.
him. Yeah.
Quite a bit.
Yep.
Like if you're a person who's on the fence, you're like, maybe Donald Trump's not a bad guy. And then
It's called manufacturing consent, chat.
if you're a person who's on the fence, you're like, maybe Donald Trump's not a bad guy. And then you Google him, and then you start reading some of these like pieces that they've written about him. It'll change your perspective.
You really think she's going to win?
I'm saying it because she could. I'm not saying it
She, of
because I
course,
think
could.
she's going to, and I'm not saying because I want her to. I'm just being honest. Like I could see her winning.
I think she's going to lose a lot of the black male vote.
Really, that's
I
what
don't
I'm
think
saying.
they're going to go in the booth and pull the lever for her like they did for Biden, who was Obama's boy.
Wow. It's obvious that Joe Rogan has no respect for Kamala as a person, as a leader. And I really want this podcast to happen because can you just imagine? Look at this. Jamie, pull up that clip where Kamala says she wants taxpayers to pay for criminal sex change surgeries. I mean, this episode will probably be gold. And in our last clip of the night, I'm going to show you guys another reason why Kamala is not connecting with male voters. It's her VP choice, Tim Walz, who is one of the weirdest dudes I have ever seen on video. Sorry. Oh my God. Okay, sorry. His claps like this. Who does that? And he does the point. Sorry, guys. I'm laughing with it. It's so weird. He's so weird. He's such a goof. This guy is the biggest. Look at what is wrong with this guy. He's so weird.
I was born in a small town. I live in a small town.
Oh man, Tim Walz is the weirdest dude I've ever seen on video. It's not even close. So yes, folks, Kamala is at peak desperation, but I want you to tell me in the comments down below. Do you think her appearing on the Joe Rogan podcast is going to help with her campaign? How do you see this play out? I want to hear it from you guys in the comments. If you guys enjoyed today's episode, make sure to like, subscribe, drop a comment, tell your friends about the Pleb, or buy a $5 Canadian membership. My name is The Pleb, and I'll see you at the next report. Peace.